We've all seen it in movies, right? The grand romantic gesture. The guy shows up at the airport. The girl writes a love letter after a big fight. Someone proposes after a week of knowing each other. It feels epic, passionate, like something out of a Nicholas Sparks novel. But let me tell you something that might sting a little. That romantic gesture that made your heart skip a beat, it might actually be a huge red flag. Now, I'm not saying romance is dead. Far from it. I love romance. I love effort. I love people showing up for each other. But here's the difference. Real love shows up consistently, not just dramatically. When someone does something big to distract you from how little they've been doing, that's not romance. That's manipulation with a bow on it. Let's say someone disappears for days, doesn't communicate, treats you poorly, and then out of nowhere they send flowers or show up crying, saying how much they need you. You think it's romantic? No, that's emotional inconsistency dressed up in petals and perfume. Here's the truth. A romantic gesture means nothing if it's not backed by consistent respect, effort, and presence. Anyone can say the right words once. Anyone can buy flowers. Anyone can write a song or plan a spontaneous trip. But how do they treat you on a random Tuesday? How do they react when things aren't going their way? Are they kind when they're angry? Do they listen when it's inconvenient? That's what real love looks like. The red flag isn't in the flowers, it's in the timing of the flowers. It's when romance is used to cover up a mess they don't want to clean up. So next time someone does something that seems so romantic, ask yourself this: is this gesture coming from love or is it coming from guilt? Because the most romantic thing someone can give you isn't a gift. It's consistency. It's emotional safety. It's showing up again and again, not just when they feel like they're losing you. We've all been conditioned by movies and social media to believe that grand romantic gestures are the ultimate proof of love. A surprise proposal in front of a crowd, showing up in the rain to profess undying devotion, or sending 1,000 roses after a fight. These actions are designed to take our breath away. And in the right context, they can be beautiful. But what we often miss is how these gestures can sometimes act as emotional smoke screens, diverting attention from serious issues in the relationship. When someone treats you poorly, distances themselves emotionally, or causes harm, and then suddenly showers you with affection, gifts, or dramatic apologies, it's not necessarily romance. It might be manipulation. This pattern often plays out in toxic dynamics. A partner may ignore your emotional needs, disappear for days, give you mixed signals, or constantly make you feel uncertain about where you stand. But when you finally decide to set a boundary or walk away, they come back with a massive display of affection, a handwritten letter, a playlist, an expensive gift, or a public declaration. In that moment, your brain is flooded with emotion. You feel special. You start questioning whether you overreacted. That's the trap. The gesture isn't necessarily about love. It's about regaining control. It's meant to reset your emotions and reestablish the connection on their terms. These grand moments can make you forget the days or weeks of emotional neglect that came before. That's why they're so dangerous. They hijack your sense of logic. You stop asking critical questions like, why didn't they show up for me when I needed them? Or why do I feel anxious more than I feel loved in this relationship? Instead, you get pulled into the narrative that this is love, that this is what you've been waiting for, but what you're really responding to is the relief that comes after emotional starvation. That's not love. That's a cycle. What's even more alarming is that this cycle tends to repeat. Each time the bad behavior returns, so does the dramatic apology or romantic gesture. Over time, you become conditioned to tolerate emotional inconsistency because you're waiting for the high of the next big moment. The relationship becomes a roller coaster, thrilling in the highs, sickening in the lows. And before you realize it, you've started to confuse intensity with intimacy. That's why it's so important to recognize when a romantic gesture isn't actually about you or the relationship, but about covering tracks, silencing conflict, or maintaining power. Real love doesn't need to dazzle you to distract you. In a world obsessed with viral moments and big declarations, we often overlook the quiet power of consistency. Real love isn't always flashy. It's not the fireworks or the grand public speeches. It's in the quiet, steady rhythm of someone showing up for you every single day. When someone truly cares, they don't wait for an occasion to make you feel valued. Their actions reflect their intentions day in and day out. You don't need to guess how they feel about you because their presence, behavior, and words match consistently over time. That's not boring. That's emotional security. Drama, on the other hand, is seductive. It feels intense. It gives you highs that are so overwhelming, they feel like passion. But intensity isn't the same thing as intimacy. Just because someone makes your heart race doesn't mean they're good for your emotional well-being. A relationship built on drama may feel exciting in the beginning, but it's also unpredictable, and unpredictability breeds anxiety. If you're constantly wondering where you stand with someone, if you only feel loved during emotional extremes, that's not romance, that's instability. Consistency isn't always exciting, but it's deeply meaningful. It's someone remembering the small things you said. It's checking in on you after a hard day. It's keeping promises even when it's inconvenient. When a person is consistent, you stop looking for signs and start building trust. You feel safe being vulnerable, expressing your needs, and growing together without the fear that love will be pulled away the moment things get difficult. And it's in this environment, calm, steady, emotionally mature, that true intimacy grows. It's not about grand entrances. It's about someone who never quietly exits when it matters most. What makes consistency so powerful is that it builds a foundation. Imagine trying to build a home on unstable ground. Sure, you could decorate it beautifully, but it'll collapse the moment a storm hits. That's what a dramatic, only relationship looks like. It may seem exciting and intense, but when life throws real challenges at you, grief, stress, conflict, change, there's no structure to hold you both up. A consistent partner shows that they're there not just when it's easy or romantic, but also when it's hard, messy, and real. That's not just love, it's maturity. It's easy to be swept off your feet by someone who knows all the right moves. Maybe they text you sweet things, send flowers, or make promises that sound straight out of a fairy tale. In isolation, those things feel incredible. They light up your day, make you feel seen, and give you hope. But if those romantic actions exist without a foundation of consistent respect, they start to lose their value. Anyone can act loving for a moment. Anyone can say the right thing when they want something. But the question is, how do they behave when they don't need to impress you? Respect isn't about occasional compliments or sweet words. Respect is shown in how they listen to you, how they handle conflict, how they treat your time and emotions. It's in the way they support your goals instead of dismissing them. It's in how they speak about you when you're not around. And most importantly, it's in how they react when they don't get their way. Do they stay calm and communicative, or do they shut down, guilt trip, or lash out? Because true respect doesn't disappear when the situation becomes uncomfortable. If someone showers you with affection but disrespects your boundaries, ignores your voice, or belittles your concerns, they're not being romantic. They're being performative. One of the biggest traps people fall into is mistaking charm for character. Charm can make you feel special, but character is what determines whether someone treats you well over the long haul. You might meet someone who's incredibly affectionate and romantic at first. They say things no one else has said to you. They make you feel like you're the only person in the world. But then when you need emotional support, when you express a boundary, or when life gets real, that same person might become distant, cold, or even dismissive. Suddenly, those romantic words mean nothing because they're not backed by consistent respect and follow through. When romantic actions are not matched by respectful behavior, they're not signs of love, they're distractions. They can make you question your own judgment. You start thinking, but they did that sweet thing last week, maybe I'm being too sensitive now. No, you're not. The truth is, love without respect is unsustainable. A relationship without respect will always leave you feeling unsure, second guessing yourself, and chasing the highs to compensate for the constant emotional lows. That's not romance, that's imbalance. And it doesn't matter how beautiful the apology or how expensive the gift. If it comes after disrespect, it's not love, it's damage control. Romantic gestures are not just about what is done, they're about when and why it's done. The timing can reveal more about a person's intentions than the gesture itself. When someone gives you affection after they've gone silent, been distant, or caused emotional harm, it's important to pause and reflect. Is this gesture genuinely about expressing love, or is it strategically timed to smooth over discomfort, reset the dynamic, or avoid accountability? Because if someone only becomes loving after they sense they're losing you, that's not romance, it's panic. This dynamic is common in emotionally unstable relationships. A partner may ignore your texts, avoid meaningful conversation, or disregard your feelings until you start to pull away. Suddenly, they show up with a sweet message, a surprise visit, or a dramatic declaration. And for a moment, it feels amazing. But here's the issue. Why did it take distance or conflict for them to act? Why did the romantic energy appear after things started to fall apart? The answer, too often, is that the gesture is not about love. It's about restoring control or re-engaging your emotions so you won't leave. The gesture then becomes a tool, not a gift. This type of timing can create confusion an emotional dependency. You begin to associate conflict with closeness because every time something goes wrong, it's followed by a surge of affection. Over time, you might even start to crave the make-up moments because they feel more emotionally intense than the everyday reality of the relationship. But this is not a healthy cycle. It conditions you to tolerate mistreatment in exchange for intermittent moments of warmth and attention. The romantic gesture doesn't come from a stable place. It comes from imbalance, from a fear of consequences rather than a desire to consistently love and support you. Healthy relationships don't wait for things to break before they fix them. In a stable connection, romantic gestures are woven into the rhythm of the relationship, not used as a reset button. They're not triggered by guilt or the fear of losing control. They're offered freely, thoughtfully, and regularly. When someone loves you in a healthy way, you don't feel like affection is a reward for your patience with their chaos. You don't feel starved for love until they sense you're slipping away. Instead, love feels predictable in the best possible way. It feels like something you can count on, not something you chase after. There's a common misconception that romance is about intensity, passionate words, surprise gifts, dramatic moments that feel like scenes from a movie. But the truth is, real romance isn't just about the highs. It's about building an environment where both people feel safe to be themselves. Emotional safety means you can express your feelings without fear of being dismissed. It means you can disagree without being punished with silence or withdrawal. In emotionally safe relationships, love isn't weaponized and communication isn't used as a form of control. That kind of safety is the most underrated form of romance there is. Emotional safety is directly tied to someone's presence. And by presence, I don't just mean being physically around. I mean emotionally available, attuned, engaged, and responsive. A person who is truly present listens to understand, not to defend. They remember the things that matter to you, not because it benefits them, but because you matter to them. Presence is found in the little moments, asking how your day was and genuinely caring, noticing your mood shifts, being with you not just when everything is perfect, but also when you're quiet, anxious, or struggling. It's through those moments that trust is built and deepened. The third piece is effort. Consistent, deliberate effort. Not grand, one-time performances, but the kind of effort that says, I'm choosing you, even on the days when life gets busy or tough. Real romance doesn't fade when life becomes routine. In fact, effort during the mundane parts of life is where romance actually lives. It's making coffee for your partner without being asked. It's choosing to talk through an argument rather than walking away. It's showing up for their small moments, not just their big wins. That's effort. And that's what makes love feel real, not just exciting. Many people associate romance with unpredictability. Like if someone suddenly sweeps you off your feet, that must mean it's real. But true romance doesn't make you anxious. It doesn't leave you wondering where you stand. It doesn't thrive on chaos. Instead, it gives you room to relax, to breathe, to be your full self without fear of being too much or not enough. That kind of love isn't just built through passion. It's built through consistency, care, and presence. When you combine emotional safety, true presence and steady effort, that's when romance becomes something sustainable and something worth holding on to. One of the most dangerous traps in modern relationships is mistaking manipulation for affection. It's easy to believe that just because someone is giving you attention, they must care. But not all attention comes from love. Some of it comes from control. A person may say all the right things, offer you affection in carefully timed moments, or make you feel special right after making you feel small. That isn't affection. That's a calculated response to maintain power over how you feel. It's not about building intimacy. It's about keeping you emotionally dependent and off balance. Manipulation often hides in behaviors that look romantic on the surface. Someone might apologize with tears in their eyes, say they can't live without you, or claim no one else could ever love you the way they do. It sounds sweet, passionate, even. But if these statements follow toxic behaviors like lying, gaslighting, emotional neglect, or outbursts of anger, they're not loving gestures. They're psychological tools used to blur your boundaries. The manipulator doesn't want resolution. They want you to stop questioning them. They want you to stay, and they know that playing the loving card will confuse you enough to pause your pain. This confusion is what makes manipulation so effective. You start second guessing your instincts. You remember the affectionate moments and use them to justify the hurtful ones. But they were so sweet last night becomes your internal excuse for tolerating disrespect today. Over time, your sense of what's healthy gets warped. You become addicted to the cycle emotional withdrawal, followed by intensity, followed by guilt and tenderness. That emotional roller coaster tricks your brain into equating chaos with passion. But healthy love doesn't swing from one extreme to the other. It stabilizes you. It doesn't shake you to your core just to pull you back again. Affection that only appears when you're pulling away or setting boundaries is not love. It's control in disguise. Genuine affection is consistent. It supports your autonomy. It encourages your growth, your voice, and your peace. It doesn't silence your feelings with kisses or gifts. It honors them with real conversation and changed behavior. If someone loves you, their affection won't feel like a sedative to calm you down after they've hurt you. It will feel like a steady presence that never required you to be broken in the first place. So be careful not to fall for intensity when what you truly need is security. So the next time someone sweeps you off your feet with a grand romantic gesture, pause just for a moment. Ask yourself, is this love showing up for me? Or is it trying to cover something up? Because real love doesn't need fireworks to prove itself. It proves itself in the quiet mornings, the honest conversations, the respect that never wavers, and the presence that never has to be begged for. You deserve the kind of love that doesn't confuse you, that doesn't hurt you, then hug you, that doesn't disappear and then write poems to be forgiven. You deserve a love that's not just romantic, but reliable, respectful, and real. Don't let emotional intensity distract you from emotional integrity. Choose peace over performance. Choose consistency over chaos. Choose the kind of love that shows up every day, not just when it's afraid to lose you.